Welcome to the Wednesday episode of Arch City Sports. Today we're going to wrap up the Cardinals 2024 season. A lot of ups and downs throughout the year. We're going to break it all down today. Kind of discuss a little bit of each part of the season. Before we get started, make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube. Go follow and rate the podcast a 5-star on Spotify or Amazon Music. Of course, go follow us on all social media: Instagram, TikTok, X. We're on all of those platforms. I apologize for the last couple of weeks kind of being inconsistent with posting every day. We are getting back to that today with this episode on Wednesday, and of course, daily content going to be produced on our social media pages. A lot of Blues content coming up, a lot of St. Louis City and SLU basketball content coming up as the Cardinals have wrapped up their season. I will say these next couple of weeks will consist of a lot of St. Louis Cardinals player grades and what I think 2025 will look like, stuff like that. So the Cardinals content is not completely going away. We're just going to kind of slow it down and kind of transition into more of the fall and winter sports, being the Blues and SLU in St. Louis City. But with all the little promotions done there, let's get right into the episode. Like I said, a 2024 Cardinals season wrap up. A lot of ups, a lot of downs. The ups included Mason Wynn breaking onto the scene, becoming this year was a borderline all-star shortstop. I know that position is really loaded in the National League and American League, whether it be Gunnar Henderson and Bobby Witt in the American League or Trey Turner and Francisco Lindor in the National League. It's a loaded spot. It's a very good position, very deep position, and Mason Wynn put his name right up there with the best of them. He's got some growing to do, obviously. His average dropped under 270 near the end of the season, but the guy had 15 homers, which was kind of a shock. I mean, you didn't think he would have that much power, and I think that power number may not increase dramatically going forward, but it's going to get up there probably near 20 homers. I can expect my expectations next year, and we'll get into really deep into that conversation throughout the offseason, but my early expectations for next year is for him to probably hit 18 homers, bat over 280, be a Gold Glove defender, and hold down shortstop as a 22-year-old. That is not the expectations we had coming into this season for Mason Wynn. So that's a huge jump for Mason Wynn. Really, really nice sign in a season. Like I said, lots of ups and downs. We were 4 games over 500, 83 and 79, and Mason Wynn made it fun to watch Cardinals baseball every single day with him at the top of the order. That's another thing. He wasn't supposed to be our leadoff hitter at all. He was supposed to be near the bottom of the lineup, not a lot of pressure on him, and we just were able to throw him in that role, and he just took off with it. Another big up for us was Ryan Helsley. I mean, what a season for Ryan Helsley. Now, who knows how long he's going to be a St. Louis Cardinal for, but 49 saves out of our 83 wins. He was 49. 49 of those were save opportunities for him that he closed down the deal. His last 17 games of the season, he did not give up a run. He was as good as closer can get outside of Emmanuel Clase. He's the second best closer in all of baseball. And what an unbelievable year for Ryan Helsley. Like I said, with our transition period from a really good organization to a below 500 organization, these last couple of years just have not been the right way of playing Cardinal baseball. We're in a transition where I think a whole youth movement is on its way, and Ryan Helsley might be one of those big guns, low key kind of a veteran now, that might be on his way out the door, and we might get a huge haul for Ryan Helsley. But what a year for Ryan! 49 saves, ERA at about 2. Great year for Ryan. Alec Burleson, a really rough end to the season, but man, what a year for him as well. Not a lot of expectations last year, hitting the ball really hard, but didn't really get the results for it. We were just hoping he could pop up, and really get the results this year. He finished the year batting .269 with 21 homers, 78 RBIs, and a .235 average. The big thing, though, with Alec Burleson, I said a rough end to the season. From August 20th to the end of the season, Alec Burleson batted .228 with 1 homer, 5 RBIs, and that was in 36 games. So a very slow end to the season for Alec Burleson. But what I will say with Alec is he's never played, and we kind of saw this with maybe not a huge drop off like that with Mason Wynn, but they were kind of in the same boat there where these two guys are so young and they've never played that long of a season of playing every single day at the top of the order, batting 1 and 2 for us. That I think it might have just caught up to him a little bit. I think we're going to not see that big of a drop off next year. And I think Alec Burleson, like I said, finishing batting 269 with 21 homers, 78 RBIs, early expectation. I think he could hit 25 homers and have 90 RBIs. I kind of had that envisioned. I had that envisioned out for him earlier in the year, probably at the end of July before we had that huge drop off in August and September. But overall, a really good year and promising year from Alec Burleson. The main thing with him is he doesn't strike out a whole lot, but he swings a lot early, and he swings a lot actually throughout the entire count, but he swings a lot early in the count. So I would like to see his walks go up a little bit more next year. Not saying that he doesn't have plate discipline because he doesn't strike out. He's really good bat to ball skills, but we would really like to see those walks go up for potential 3, 4, 5 hitter to come up if he's in that 2 spot again. The last guy here for our really big ups, I mean, the whole bullpen deserves credit. I'm not really going to talk about them today as much. Definitely going to give them their praise in the offseason. But Brendan Donovan, what a finish to the year for Brendan Donovan. Started the year off slow and then got red hot near the end of the season. He finished the year batting 278 with 14 homers, 73 RBIs, and an OPS at 759. Really good year from Brendan Donovan. I think he has solidified that spot at second base. Now, he was our left fielder for a lot of the season. Nolan Gorman's struggles kind of led Brendan Donovan going to second base, and who knows what we're going to get with Nolan Gorman going into 2025 and even beyond that. So I think Brendan Donovan and Mason Wynn are your middle infield moving forward. Donovan can play all over the place. I could see a world, and I don't particularly want this to happen, but let's say Nolan Arenado gets shipped somewhere and we need a third baseman. I could see Brendan Donovan going over there. If we have outfield issues next year and Nolan Gorman swinging a good bat, I think Brendan Donovan could be thrown into left field. He's still that utility player, but I think he should be your starting second baseman, and I think he deserves that going into 2025. Really good year from Brendan Donovan. Let's look at the downs now, the down parts of the season, starting with the guy that we just agreed to part ways with, Paul Goldschmidt, the former Cardinals MVP. He's now 37 years old. He'll be 38 next September. Overall, a down year. He finished the year very strong, finishing with a 245 average, 22 homers, 65 RBIs, and a 716 OPS. Now, if that was Alec Burleson's numbers by the end of the season, I don't think we would be like, oh my goodness, what an awful year. But for Paul Goldschmidt's standard, a huge drop off, and that 245 average is generous compared to what it was in July. We were talking 221 to 229 for a large part of the season. And he really picked it up in the month of September. I can actually pull up his numbers here for the month of September because he raised it big time. In the month of September, he batted 275. The last few games, he didn't do a whole lot. There was a stretch in the middle of the month there as well, but he started the month red hot, if you guys remember. He ended the month of August red hot in that Yankee series. Had a game where he was, I believe it was 4 for 4 or 5 for 5, something like that. Then a 3 for 5 game, against Milwaukee. Then he hit a rough stretch against Seattle, had a couple hits in the Red series. I mean, just no consistency with Paul Goldschmidt this year. It was really hard to just get that consistent play. You could say that about a bunch of guys, honestly. The next guy we have to talk about here, and I will say we're going to break down a lot of Paul Goldschmidt's career throughout the offseason. It's not just going to be an awkward goodbye like it kind of was in San Francisco, where we just pulled them in the third inning or whatever it was in the last game of the season. And there was no, I know it was an away game, but there was no really honoring Paul Goldschmidt for his career here. Now, I know we've discussed on other platforms the Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt tenure here, the 4 years that they were here together, their limited amount of postseason time together, their limited success in the postseason. Both of them batting about 100 in the postseason. Now they're like 10 and 12 at bats respectively. And then also us not winning a single playoff game and their tenure here. It's kind of shocking. I mean, they both had decent careers here, and I think Arenado probably finds his way back as a Cardinal next year. Goldschmidt had his ups and downs this year. Earlier in his tenure as a Cardinal, had some ups and downs, but that MVP year in 2022 was a huge, just positive point for Paul Goldschmidt. And I just think it's really mind blowing to think that these two guys, it's not only on them. There's a lot to go around. It's different than a sport like basketball or even hockey, where a couple guys can really lead you and carry you. Baseball, you need all hands on deck. It's kind of like football in that aspect, and so it's not all the blame on them, but really a shame and a kind of a organizational failure that we did not win a single playoff game with Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt in St. Louis. Um, Speaking of the next guy here, I'm going to go Jordan Walker as the next guy here. Finishing the year batting 201 with 5 homers, 20 RBIs, and a 619 OPS. Finished the year off a very strong, actually, a very good month of September, where and I'll pull that number up for you here. Jordan Walker in the month of September batted 253 with a 793 OPS, 5 homers, and 16 RBIs. A very weird year once again for Jordan Walker. A very weird start to his career. Last year, all the ups and downs, started the year off hitting everything hard, but wasn't getting the launch angle up and wasn't getting the air under the ball as much as the Cardinals organization wanted. And then this year, just a awful start to the year. I mean, in the month of April, in about 15 games or whatever he played there, was batting under 200. I think it was in like the 150s. Then he got sent down, and then in the middle of, I believe it was August, he got called back up, and then sent down 3 days later, and then called back up in September. Had a massive breakout game in New York where he went 5 for 5, and then after that he went 0 for like his last 8. So just a lot of, I mean, the word I can come up with this that kind of shows what this whole season was about was the lack of consistency that we had throughout the entire organization, whether it be Paul Goldschmidt, Nolan Arenado, Jordan Walker, Nolan Gorman, starting pitching with Sonny Gray inconsistent. Kyle Gibson was overall good, but he has really blown up starts. Just overall inconsistency, and we really couldn't. I mean, it's not a bad team. We were 83 and 79, but we just could not have everybody click at the same time. Lars Nootbaar's another one. Victor Scott had ups and downs. Like, couldn't have everybody at the same time just go the right direction, or they go to the same direction rather. And it just ultimately led to us not making the playoffs once again. I do hope that Jordan Walker gets the opportunity right out of spring training next year and just is your starting right fielder or left fielder, or if you want to convert him to first base, I could see why you would want to do that. I think he's too good of an athlete to do that. I would rather put him in right or left. I would have Nootbaar, Victor Scott, and Jordan Walker in your outfield, whether it's Nootbaar in left or Walker in left. They could switch around to those two spots. I think Jordan Walker deserves the playing time every single day. We're not looking to be a World Series contender next year, so why not see what your number one prospect for several years in a row now has, and see what he can do in Jordan Walker. The next guy, I mentioned him a little bit, was Nolan Arenado. Again, another guy that finished the year pretty strong. Had a really dark middle of the year, though. 272 average this year, 16 homers, which was a career low, and 71 RBIs, a 719 OPS. He's 33 years old. He's going to be 34 in the month of April next year. Does Nolan Arenado return as a Cardinal? Has a no trade clause. He would have to waive it. Now, I do believe with us kind of going in the direction of not being a contender next year, with us having pretty high hopes this year, if we had these 4 guys that I'm talking about that had down seasons, if those 4 guys produced, it would have been a different story. But Nolan Arenado, going to be a 34-year-old. His career, I think he's got still some production left in the tank, but obviously you can see the trend going downhill here. So what do we expect from Nolan Arenado next year? Do you want him to be your third baseman and kind of be the veteran guy there in the infield with guys like Mason Wynn and Nolan or Brendan Donovan, and who knows at first base, Alec Burleson or Lucan Baker? Do you want, or Jordan Walker? Do you want Nolan Arenado to be the veteran voice there? He might be, but also if you're Nolan Arenado, Do you want to go play with the Dodgers and play for something? Do you want to go play with the Orioles and play for something? Time will tell. Overall, I'll get into player grades in a couple weeks. Overall, just kind of a mid-season for Arenado when you put the whole season together. This is what I'm talking about this whole episode is ups and downs, really down moments, but some ups for him as well, especially near the end of the season. The last guy that we have to really focus on a really rough 2024 season is Nolan Gorman. Gorman had a lot of homers to start the year. He ended up finishing with 19 homers, and he didn't even play the month of September. So he's got incredible power, but my goodness, the hole in his swing is unbelievable. He batted 203 this year with a 671 OPS, 19 homers, and 50 RBIs. His inability to make contact in general, but also his inability to get on base. The long-term comparison with Nolan Gorman is like, oh, he doesn't have to hit for a high average because he's hitting for power. Let's compare him to Kyle Schwarber. But Kyle Schwarber gets on base at a regular basis. On a regular basis. And Kyle Schwarber has more power. And like I can see the vision for Nolan Gorman being a Kyle Schwarber-esque player, but he was not that this year. That's why they sent him down. I don't blame sending him down this year, but he's just like Jordan Walker, where if he's one of your cornerstones for the next 5 to 10 years, he needs to play every single day next year as a DH or as a second baseman with Brendan Donovan, or put him at third base if you want. Just play him every single day. Find room for all these guys. Find room for Mason Wynn, Alec Burleson, Nolan Gorman, Jordan Walker, Victor Scott. Have those 5 guys that are young and youthful and kind of the future potentially of this organization. Find spots for them in your lineup every single day. I really don't care where it's at. Mason Wynn at short, Brendan Donovan at second, Jordan Walker at first, Victor Scott in center field, and let's say we move on from Arenado and put Gorman at third. Do that then. Just find a spot for them every single day. Put Gorman as DH if you need to, whatever it may be. Find time for those guys to play every single day. I mentioned first base a couple times in this episode. What is our first baseman? Who is our first baseman next year? There's a couple of routes we can go with this. We can go into the free agency direction, which I don't think we will because we're kind of starting a youth movement here. The upcoming free agents for first base in this upcoming offseason: Pete Alonso, Rhys Hoskins if he opts out of his contract with the Brewers, Anthony Rizzo, a club option with the Yankees. You have Josh Bell, Rowdy Tellez, Christian Walker, Ryan O'Hearn, and Carlos Santana. None of those guys, I don't think we should go after any of those guys. Just keep it in-house, transition, convert Alec Burleson over there. Convert, Wilson. If Wilson Contreras is still a Cardinal, we'll dive into that in the next couple of weeks. But if he's a Cardinal, Wilson Contreras, do you put him at first base and let Ivan Herrera and Pedro Pajes play every day behind the plate? Luken Baker, who obviously missed the last couple of games of the season because he had a kid. Shout out Luken Baker. Is here everyday first baseman and kind of platooning with Alec Burleson. I would just rather go the youth movement than bring in a Carlos Santana who's in his mid-30s. It just wouldn't make sense. So we're going to kind of, again, touch on more of like who I personally want to be first base. But I think we need to keep it in-house, whether it be Burleson, Luken Baker, Jordan Walker, Wilson Contreras, Nolan Gorman, like whatever you do, I think it should be in-house. Now, rotation-wise, last year we went and we made a couple moves, not big name moves. We got Sonny Gray, we got Kyle Gibson, we got Lance Lynn. We've already announced we're not going to bring back, most likely, any of those free agents we have pending right now. So that means Kyle Gibson, gone. That means Lance Lynn, gone. That means Paul Goldschmidt, gone. Keenan Middleton and Andrew Kittredge, gone. So rotation-wise, it leaves a couple spots open, and you would think, oh, we'll go make a deal. But then you have a guy as in Michael McGreevy who finishes the year so strong and goes 3-0 with an ERA under 2 in his 3 starts, or 2. I believe it was 3 starts and then 1 out of the bullpen. Unless he does something in spring training or throughout the offseason that shows that he is not ready, he should be your in your rotation for sure. And then you have a guy in Andre Palante who kind of blossomed on the scene. Obviously, Eric Fetty's going to come back, and we've said we're going to be willing to ship Sonny Gray. I don't think he's shipped before the season though next year. So then you have Sonny Gray in the rotation for sure. Eric Fetty for sure. Andre Palante, yep. I think Michael McGreevy deserves that spot. And then you have Miles Michaelis, who has 1 year left on his contract. And I believe for us not trying to win next year, you just, instead of eating the money, and nobody's going to want him at this point, ERA over 5.5 this year, I think he's your number 5 starter. Now, at the deadline, I think we could move on from Helsley, which I love Ryan Helsley, but I think we could get a huge haul for him. We could move on from Sonny Gray at the deadline, ideally, if they're both healthy and pitching well. That's the only risk of waiting until the deadline, is that who knows what their health is going to look like, or who knows what kind of season they're going to look like. It's kind of betting on the player to be, live up to their name and live up to their title. But yeah, I think our rotation next year, before anything happens this offseason, if I were to guess, it'd be Sonny Gray, Eric Fetty, Andre Palante, Michael McGreevy, and Miles Michaelis. I don't think we do a whole lot with the rotation. And overall, I don't think we can expect any big moves this offseason from the Cardinals at all. I think we keep a lot of what we're doing in-house and try to develop these young guys. We have a whole new development crew coming in. So let's see what we can do with our youth movement, hopefully starting right now. And Ollie and Mo are returning. That's the big news this week with the press conference. Chaim Bloom will be taking over for Mo starting in 2026. So we got one more year of Mozeliak. I'll just keep it at that for now. And then we have Ollie Marmol for at least one more year. I think he's under contract until 2026 anyway. So that's really going to wrap it up for today's episode. These next few weeks, Cardinals content is not going away. We have player grades coming. We have obviously further into the offseason, we have expectations for 2025 coming. But St. Louis fans, be looking out for a lot of I got my direction wrong there. Look out for a lot of St. Louis Blues content coming soon here, with the season starting on October 8th. That's a Tuesday versus the Seattle Kraken. I believe it's in Seattle as well. So this next week and a half, we're really going to be touching on expectations for the season, covering a couple more players, and then obviously every single night the Blues play, recapping games and discussing Blues content. Of course, St. Louis City still playing. We've kind of slowed down that a little bit, but then also St. Louis City or St. Louis U basketball. SLU basketball is going to be starting up in the month of September, or month of November rather, and that's going to be a lot of fun to follow that too. So St. Louis Blues, SLU basketball content. Of course, that Cardinals content will never go away completely, as St. Louis Cardinals player grades will be coming out these next 2 weeks. But thank you guys for the patience these last couple weeks. I've been working on a couple other things with that's a great channel over there with STL Sports Central I've been working with. So if you're enjoying the Arch City Sports podcast, make sure to go follow over there and listen to myself and Hayden and Peyton on this STL Sports Central podcast. We're going to be doing twice a week over there. So that's the best St. Louis sports content I think you can get here at Arch City Sports and over there at STL Sports Central. So make sure to follow these two podcasts to get all of your off-season Cardinals content, St. Louis Blues content, and SLU basketball content. I will see you guys on Friday for another episode of Arch City Sports. Everybody have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you then.